Okay, so this will be a session how to contribute to RDO. First part we will introduce some history to see how RDO came to be and what we are currently doing, and later there will be a session at the end to go into some new tools that we are planning to use in RDO. So, Alan, that's me. I'm nominally team lead for the RDO engineering at Red Hat, and Haikel is part of the team. And we have team members also here. So, RDO is kind of equivalent to what Fedora is to RHEL for OpenStack product. So it's an open source community project targeted at packaging upstream OpenStack, that means vanilla without patches, to be close to the upstream, same as Fedora principles, just for RHEL. And the family of OS like Fedora. So we started in Fedora. Okay,
we'll take care of that.
So that's basically OpenStack packages and dependencies that we need. We have a simple installer and more complex deployment tool in the manager. And what we are trying to build a community of people using it, and eventually have governance set up so that we actually do already all meetings in public. We don't have anything internal in RDO, so everything is decided on RDO meetings on IRC. So what was the history? We first introduced this in Fedora. It was Diablo in Fedora 16 time frame, and then we were lucky that we were able to keep one-to-one mapping up to the kilo recently, and then in Fedora this is started going. So Fedora 24 still not released. Liberty is already released, so we are already out of its sync. So that's why we basically decided to abandon pushing this to Fedora and to have RDO as a separate distribution. So we'll have like separate dist-git. We'll have and started moving all the OpenStack services to the RDO. So first, that was Fedora, where we started with packaging OpenStack, and then when we started packaging 2EL, Enterprise Linux, who is moving even slower. It's even bigger SKU, so you can't have one release of RHEL, and you have 2 releases per year of OpenStack. So first we added to Apple 6, and then we pushed the update to Essex. That was first previous release. And then what happened that on the Folsom update in Apple, that was basically breaking Apple guidelines, but we were pushing the boundary to see how far we can go. We got pushback from the users, so that is not going to work. So we started discussing how to address that and created RDO, starting with Grizzly. And year before, after that, we moved to Cloud SIG in the CentOS. We are actually still, I think, only one. So there is Cloud SIG infrastructure. CentOS supposed to be home for any cloud infrastructure distributions. So we are now the only one who can complete. Others who can participate in that activity. So that's the history. So we have now RDO as a next slide as a distribution. So let's see how you can actually contribute that.
Okay. Well, when you think about open source and contributing, the first thing is about writing code or something like that. And if you want to write code, just do it upstream. We don't have a downstream feature, or we try not to have, at least in RDO. We have vanilla experience of OpenStack. Whenever you can help is documentation. It's a very low barrier access. The RDO project.org has moved to a new static website. Makes it very, very easy to contribute. You can, if you don't know Git, you can just edit on GitHub. There is an interactive editor. We have an issue tracker, or if you have ideas of how to improve the documentation or wants to help, just browse it and take a ticket or create one. And participate in RDO Doc Days that Rich is coordinating. That's important because good documentation makes it easier to use RDO, and if we have more people using RDO, that means we get more feedback to improve RDO, and also it's also a starting point if you want to contribute to OpenStack upstream. For testing, we have regular test day, and we try to have even more regular ones. You can count on having one at least after every milestones. And if you want to contribute to RDO CI, one of our coworkers that is not here today, David, wrote a tool called Weirdo, which allows you to run a bunch of tests like Tempest or even upstream CI test with RDO. So you can use it locally to run your own CI. That's somewhere you can help. For packaging, which is the main topic, we have we're maintaining two kind of distribution. Delorean, which is continuous delivery from the upstream branches. So we take every commit, or more, well, not every commit, but every 5 minutes we check out upstream branches and we build packages out of it. So we have some spec file, and Delorean tool process them and make them usable and build packages, and we ship them in a repository. But that's only for CI or testing purpose. You can't upgrade using Delorean. So that's why we have the RDO stable branches, which is a classical RPM distribution. So we use for that the CentOS build system to build these packages, and it's consumable, and we support updates. And well, the contribution process is that you start pushing your spec changes through Delorean during the master branches during the release beginning of the release cycle, and when it gets released, we fork out the spec file and use it as a basis for a stable branch. But if you want really to start with RDO paging, I would advise you to start with Delorean, because you get feedback, we review every changes there, and also it makes it easy to rebuild locally your packages and testing them. If you want to influence the RDO roadmap or anything else, you should attend the RDO meeting, which is not only for technical contributors. All contributors are welcome. It's every Wednesday on IRC, and on the RDO channel, Freenode, and it's at 3 p.m. UTC. Okay. Don't mind the second point. But the agenda is online. It's an etepad. Anyone can edit it. So if you want to add a point or see what is the agenda, just go there. If you're not sure, ping us on IRC or send us an email. We'll be super happy to help you, guys.
True story.
Yeah. And now the setup. You know that?
Yeah, so this is how it currently hosts. So it's at the GitHub OpenStack Packages organization. They actually proposed to open this organization for Debian as well, but they did not like it. I don't know how that went.
Yeah.
So it's like to be generic upstream packaging, and that's actually eventually the goal, to have all this upstream and upstream CI, so that really every proposed change builds the packages and tests with them, so that developers have immediately feedback if they are breaking distribution. So currently it's a separate GitHub organization, and we have branches RPM-master, so we already prepared. So previously it was, I think we had like Fedora 20 master, because we started with Fedora 20 spec files, actually building on Fedora 20, so we prepared to be welcome for any other distributions. So it's RPM-master, tracks current trunk development, so all the changes go there first. So that's our, let's say, our packaging upstream. Then we have stable releases cut. We fork that on demand. So it could be that spec changes are not needed for the stable release. If RPM-master still works, then we keep using it on the stable release. If not, then we fork to RPM-release, That's for Liberty, Kilo. And this last branch is our dist-git. So what we were saying, we are moving this git from Fedora, this git to RDO-Liberty. So that's our distribution package, what is built actually in CentOS build system. So we are using basically the same spec for multiple targets. We also have Delorean building on Fedora, so we can anticipate, let's say, changes for some new RHEL version. That's where we are developing, for example, Python 3 support, so it's not available in RHEL 7. So that's tested in Fedora 24 builds. And that's it. So build system, so we are building it on CentOS, community build system, CBS, and it does not require any repository. So previously we depended on Apple being enabled. So now we rebuild everything in CentOS. So this is something that will be also discussed on FOSDEM, what will be the relation between CentOS and Apple. It's last session on Sunday. Let's do that. So currently what we do, we just rebuild from Apple in CBS and then ship that into one single repository. And Delorean builds are actually using mock, which is also used by the Koji in the end. So builds should be similar. So previously it was using Docker and whatnot, but now it should be like similar, close to the production builds. Okay, so packaging review, maybe we can do this.
We try to have a similar process as upstream because we like to welcome upstream maintainers to submit modification on patches. So we use Git for as a reviewing system. Patches and packaging changes run through review. So it's interesting because on Delorean it rules a full boot and it gives you feedback. So that's always interesting because you may run on your local machine the boot, but that doesn't mean that it would work in a neutral environment. So it's nice to have that feedback. And also it's hosted on GitHub because we wanted to have an open of infrastructure, because if you want to build a community, the community should be able to participate and contribute to the infrastructure, much like upstream. So it shouldn't be owned by Red Hat or any other organization. So that's why we use GitHub. We have documentation. When the slide will be online, all the links will be clickable, so don't worry about it. And it explains how to convert a spec file to Delorean. There are few minor changes because like we are using upstream commits, you need to change the version field, the release field, and that's automatically.
It's basically a template that Delorean is then replacing with the actual values from the upstream. So Delorean, actually it was developed by a guy from Ireland, and Delorean was built in Ireland, so I guess that's the connection. Otherwise,
Also is the future.
Yeah, because you can go back to the previous commit, that was the idea. So when they had the failure, it was actually used, developed for triple O CI, upstream CI, so they could go back and test the previous build to see where it breaks.
So Delorean tracks upstream master and stable branches now. We decided to add stable branches. So because since upstream decided to stop point releases for stable branches, we decided also we should be tracking these branches and see if it breaks, the changes were breaking things. So we could help to fix them early. It breaks when upstream change requires packaging change. For instance, when it removes a binary or it adds a new binary, it will break the build. So we know that we need to change the spec file. It will also tell us, some weird issues like, this whole subsystem was removed into a separate project, so now you have to handle the upgrade like we had with Ceilometer alarm code to out, which is the new alarm managing services. From now, all of the packaging work will be mostly done in Delorean. We ought to have the fewer changes in the stable branches. Ideally, at some point we should be able to take the spec file from RPM Liberty and generate the stable branch for the stable Liberty package from it. And then we should just have at some point a fully automated system. But yeah, but that's something that you may be the one to contribute that to for RDO.
And just one small correction. So that was discussion upstream that they will kill point releases, but what is moved from upstream is coordinated point releases. So starting Liberty, there are point releases, but it's on each project to decide when to release it. There will be no coordinated releases. So when they collect enough fixes or have security fix, they can push it using new release mechanism upstream, where they just propose the tag and then it goes to the release machinery, like for the other projects for GA.
Yeah. And now, for handling all the RDO packaging, we have the acetone right by Jacob that is sitting here. Hello, Jacob.
It's my child, yay.
Yeah, so it's a Swiss Army knife for RDO packaging. It automates all the annoyance. It does rebasing the OpenStack versions, updating the patches automatically using it, submit a date which is not true anymore because we are now using ES for that. So it's an open tool. So if you have any feature or want to contribute any feature, feel free to ask Jakub or just go on GitHub. It's there. And it's also used outside OpenStack. I know that the Ceph guys have been using it, so feel free to take a peek if you want.
Yeah, I believe Ceph is using it, for example, for later packages. Yeah.
Which is a good thing. That's success.
Yay.
And now we can start the Delorean enzyme. And so now I will leave.
Yeah, so we had this idea to just ask if somebody has a proposal.
White on black? Yeah. So black on white?
Oh. You can change, yeah. No problem.
It's a bit more.
No, it's fine.
I was planning to ask you if anyone has a package which is not yet in RDO, which is in upstream OpenStack. So you can
do that too,
do packaging session on the fly.
Is this good for the planet?
I think we had one example,
Control shift plus is okay.
I can quickly check to see.
Yeah, but to increase it to 2.
Magnum run already in progress. So.
The Mistral client was, I think, was missing. Well, I think it was
already proposed.
Okay. Mistral client, yeah, it's work in progress. Yeah, but we can do it also as simple.
Clients are not that complicated. So we have spec file examples, draft proposed by Javier, also a member of that. So we'll start with that. So if we don't have any better example, I just found one funny project. So now in OpenStack namespace, you also have non-big tent project. So it's basically StackForge moved to.
Just using in Chrome, you'll end up with a lot of tabs.
Where are
yeah, Chrome, yeah.
okay.
And
Which one is good?
either.
Okay. So if we go to GitHub. Even non-OpenStack, non-big tent projects are there now. So the one I have found, it's actually a funny project, but it's whatever. Something, I don't know, it just started, so there are few commits, but it has a binary. I don't know what actually it does, but let's say that as a packager I don't need to know.
And it has fun logo.
Yeah, always fun. So how that will work. So let's see these examples, spec files that we have. Is that your GitHub?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that.
Yeah, it's so yeah.
the OpenStack example spec. So this will actually move to documentation to the RDO website. So we have examples file along with the systemd service and the example log rotate file. So this is actually template for Delorean. It's already made. So how you recognize it? Delorean, you have this XXX. That's just convention. It basically means that it's not the actual value in the spec, but Delorean will change it with and replace it with the upstream version from the Git repository. So this actually is already the template. So I hope it should be just enough to change the service name in this macro, because it's already templatized. If you see, it has a URL and service, source tarball, everything we have template. So basic requires, so that's something we need to check. So we'll also can use RDO PKG for that later. It actually compares the upstream requirements with what is in spec files. But this is just basic build requires. It misses runtime requirements. These are standard for systemd. And then what we do, we put Python code in the separate sub-package and put all runtime dependencies here. But this one is interesting, so why is this in the example file? That's because we are actually using also DB to migrate to the new MySQL driver. So all the service packages will have dependencies on also DB and not explicit dependency on the driver like it was before. So you can easily switch the drivers. So that's what needs to happen for Liberty. I'm not sure if you are complete. So we're still waiting on Trove.
Yeah, Trove is pending. There is a review pending to fix Python 3 compatibility and also the PMI-SQL issue. And it's still not merged because of some random CI failure, and nobody has had the time to fix it.
Okay, then we should not work on that. We should just maybe it's actually issued with Trove in the service itself, not in the database that we use.
Yeah.
So then we have sub-package for the tests. We are putting that in the separate sub-package, so it does not clutter the runtime system. You can install it if needed, or if we are doing CI with packages, and then usually we have common where we put like configuration files, and then it's docs package also separate so it does not clutter runtime system. And that's it. So one more change for the Delorean is using this macro. So normally here would be just a version, and in Delorean you need to have upstream version, which is a macro replaced by the Delorean when it runs with the actual version. Because this is the version that is generated by setup py version, and the version that it puts in the version field of RPM is somehow transferred because that it's not valid RPM version field, so it needs to replace dots, stuff like that.
Yeah, we standardize the name of the version and try to have more explicit versions.
Yeah. There's also in Delorean, so how we ensure that actually each rebuild generates the.
I think that we have the fallback macro because we still use this macro in 70 pages when we have the one macro, so you don't have to care about that. You just use the upstream version and check the fallback macro, and it will take care of everything for you. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, is it default RPM macro or the override?
No, it's overridden, but we have fallback that will define it to same default value for you. So if it's not defined, it will default to that.
Okay.
It's missing here. So,
oh, it's missing.
Yeah, it's missing.
It's fixing it.
Okay, so then classic build. So we are using new py2 macros. I'm not sure if they are available except in RDO. So
in RDO they are available.
CBS.
Yeah, CBS, yeah.
So that's actually a new Fedora macro. It simplifies the generation. Also, you can have. Is there support for Python 3?
Yeah. It's not enabled in CBS, but well, since we don't know the Python, it's not.
Yeah. But we have this py2, so we can stay compatible with Fedora macros. And then standard installation of files which go to user share, so that's data directory, and configuration files, shuffling around, and do we generate actually? That could be also an example. So config files are actually removed from upstream, so they are generated on the fly. So we are actually generating in most of the specs. It's not added here, so we are generating it on the fly for most of the services. So this is then classic systemd installation, and then files for each sub package. So as I said, common goes takes config files, Python library goes to Python sub package tests, and so on. That's basically it. So you can try to apply this on Smoke. So how that would work? We need to maybe if I do checkout of this.
You can just get that.
Yeah. Can I use this? Or?
Yeah.
That's Delorean.
This one is has been in a virtual for Delorean, so you may want to use the
other session.
The other session.
TMP.
You can remain there. No problem.
Okay. So we are doing Git 1 of examples.
It's great, yes.
So first we create, so this will be Smoke, so OpenStack is a prefix that we use for all services packages. And then we copy the OpenStack example spec, everything. So first, OpenStack example spec files must match the package name. It's already there. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this macro. So we're just changing to Smoke. Okay, we need to change also summary OpenStack. What was it? Application.
How combined changelog looks like? Is it uses changelog for the OpenStack project itself, or does it add changelog from the spec as well?
For Delorean or stable groups, Delorean don't change logs entry at all because we consider this is a snapshot. We don't use that in the production. But for stable branches, we just do the usual way. When we update the packages, we just say either it's new term changes or if we fix a bug. And
So for stable branches, it is set manually.
it's set manually. Yeah.
And for Delorean, there is
No change log now. It makes no sense at this moment.
Basically, you have to look at the change log. Change log entries should be like end user documentation.
Yeah.
So you write that for the release, like a real version. And Delorean is like development tool, more or less. So.
But I mean, you need to know from which version of an upstream code and version of the spec you use this Delorean package.
It's in the version.
So
Yeah. You know from the version, and also upstream now has this Reno tool to generate release notes. So that's what we are planning to integrate. So basically, take whatever upstream has as release notes and put that in the changelog and import to this Git.
Yeah, but I think the question also was like, how do you pinpoint which specific bug is fixed from the spec? So the stable branch is outlined.
If you use Delorean, the most important is that if you use the repo, you check the repo file, the URL is unique because we use a checksum of the snapshot you're using, and we can adapt to a specific state of the repo, and we can tell you, okay, this has been built do with that upstream commit.
It's also in the Delorean, the internal SQLite database.
Yeah.
So the database matches the upstream commit with the distilled commit and which package was created. So the eventual status page for the Delorean.
Status page. But I think that that piece of information is not public for the database.
But in the report.html file?
Oh yeah, it's public. Yeah, it's in the repo. You can get up. In fact, yeah.
The other one, the report.html. Not the static review, the other one.
And to answer how do you pinpoint which bugs were fixed, it's basically just packaged upstream, so you would upstream what they fixed, and that's exactly what you get. So.
If you look in the directory, you find a SQLite database and it has all the information. I think it's just not user friendly.
We have now CSV files exported as well, so you can get. So we have in the current.
Also, it's
version CSV. Don't have Office, but that's CSV file, so you can actually import it in the spreadsheet and then see which actual upstream source was used and so on. Yeah. Okay, let's go back. So yeah, so for requirements, so here should go runtime requirements, and that's basically a copy of the upstream back. Let's go here. Requirements txt. So that's where upstream maintains. So to translate this, RDO PKG has a requirements check subcommand, which will check what is in spec and propose changes to what's missing. Did you merge that shaded fix from?
What?
Haikel has a fix that there is.
It's in my local page.
In this, so spec file needs to have spaces around operator.
Ah,
so that is missing.
Okay.
So you could put them around operator. If you paste this, then it will RPM will think this is event like literally with this number, so it will be looking for a package name like this. It's RPM parser issue. Yeah, so to translate this, we will not do it now because we have a tool for that. You can set here runtime depths here. These are PKG. Check.
One good practice for the description file is something I've been seeing more and more often, is that using macro to answer the string describing the service and reusing it. So people are just to put
yeah, I think Debian guys actually take whatever is in PY description and just put it into package, so you probably could automate that. So again, service, and that's that could be automated.
And probably will.
Yeah. This could be macro as well.
That's what we're actually doing. Kind of macro for this,
Yeah.
for the content.
Okay,
actually, idea is trying to standardize the good practices in all the spec file, because we used to have very different style for every packages. Even one which are very different. Just look at this Sarah package. It's very different from the other. I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's just very different. So we're trying to have a common style for all pages because it makes it easier for people to contribute that. Because if you know how to fix a package, you should be able to do that for all the pages, and not say, oh, where do they put the file section, or where do they put the description, because they have a different organization or something like that. all the pages should be very similar. Because actually, when you page OpenStack, it's not that different.
Okay, so here could be also macro. So yeah, here it's again specific, so it's not Smoke server probably, but we need to look at the actual source and see what actually they have.
You wrote Samug. There's a Samug. Samug. Yeah.
Oh,
Capital S.
we actually have people who know what is Smoke here.
That was a test.
Wow, so specification.
Attention.
Wow.
Thanks.
I know what the dragon is, but not the package.
Okay, so yeah, on binaries. So we need to look at the actual source. Section source. It's not Smoke server, but
They have three binaries. They have Smoke API.
Yeah.
Smoke API, Smoke Operation Engine, and Smoke Protection.
we can look at that in
That's
CFG because that's PBR generated package. Okay, we can't look at it. So yeah, so for example, if some new binary is added, then
You can look at it locally if you have a check out. No?
I did not found
Ah,
this.
yeah, okay.
Give it here. So how you was faster?
No, I did it yesterday.
He was not explaining things.
Yes.
No, I
That's
told
why
you.
you had such.
Actually,
I told you I did it yesterday.
Oh, you did?
That same project.
oh God. Okay, not work. So we have. Okay. Gone.
Internet died.
Yeah, once again.
Once again.
Yeah, it's still better than last year.
Well.
It was terrible.
Now
Now
it's
we
just
have some
bad.
access to the external network. I remember that someone was trying to fix
Just fixing the network to IBM.
Yeah.
And then we need OpenStack Smart.
Okay.
API service, and then we have two more services.
When you see that packaging for OpenStack is not that hard. The good thing is that it's very consistent. The project has a very similar architecture, very same dependencies. Well, there are some external dependencies to OpenStack that are introducing at very fast pace, which is what makes it hard, but it's not that difficult. And with Delorean, you can test it very quickly.
Okay, so, so that's the first step. So you create a spec file, then you need to add it to RDO info. That's our metadata for the distribution. So
you can use a standard one and create a branch. That's what I do.
do you have a checkout? Because we don't have a network.
No. In us, yeah, you have here. The very standard one.
Ah, okay. This one is what actually RDO PKG is generating.
Wow, that's one trick I wanted to add in the guidelines.
How do I prevent RDO PKG to override changes?
you override
It will override it on any operation that works with RDO info. But it has like fetch timeout if you didn't like half an hour, so you have like half an hour from the last.
Turn off network. And,
Oh yeah, that's what you do.
You can use branches. Actually, that's what I did.
So RDO YAML file, and then you just add your package at the end. And then we have like a template, so configurations. So for this one we'll use core template. So if you go add a core,
There are releases are defined or currently supported releases of OpenStack, and distributions are defined in this
okay,
file.
let's take the topic.
Yeah,
there
sorry.
are lots of stuff there, but
Yeah, fair
let's focus here. So package config core, it uses the convention, so adds the name, prefix name, and the standard branches. So if everything is at expected place, if you just put the conf core, it will work.
And as you see, if anyone wants to make a quick contribution to
I already see another type of that.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's also do that. Okay, so that's conf, so that's core, maintainers. Who will maintain it? This is just example. So this is important. So we are using this, actually Delorean is using this maintainer's information to actually spam you when package build fails. So this should be up to date. So
yeah, once your name gets into this file, you will get spammed.
But idea is that you actually act on those spam messages and fix the packaging. So it doesn't work.
Does RDO still have the concept of ownership of a package? So
no, it's more about having point of contact. Someone that we take care of the package, but we encourage common ownership. That we want to have multiple people.
Anyone can just send a patch.
Yeah. And as you see, it's a list. And actually, we try to prioritize community packagers over Red Hat people. Sometimes, okay, you submitting. We have 2 people submitting patch. I can tell you that community people have priority over the Red Hat people because that's important. That no one owns patch. It's collective ownership.
Yeah. Point is that it is expected that who is listed actually fixes the package, not just moves that spam folder. Okay, that's it. That's all it's needed. So
yeah, actually I added to the latest version option to list to RDO info, so you can use local files. So if it's latest RDO PKG, you can do it without fetching.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
RDO PKG version.
Yeah, if you don't want to lose your change, just create a branch. You don't get to
No, 34. It's in 34. So try and see.
Well, let's try. So info smoke should show up in the.
Yeah, it needs the newer version. Try DNF install RDO PKG.
I can actually, if we put it.
No, if internet is working, just update it. It's in the repo.
Yeah.
Just DNF install RDO PKG. It should be fast.
But then I need to push this change. I don't want.
No, you don't. You just pass flag to RDO PKG info command that you want to use this info
but
and it won't fetch.
I need to update RDO PKG.
Yeah. It's not in this version.
New version also has support for tags that we are going to introduce later. So DNF upgrade RDO PKG. No. Will it work? No.
You're not looking
yeah, just. It's because of I stage fright. I'm so used.
Stage fright.
Okay. Here we go.
It's completely empty.
You have been owned.
Caps lock, isn't it caps lock?
Yeah, maybe.
Just
But with the UV
No, it's YubiKey. You put your password in your key. YubiKey.
Yeah.
YubiKey. Let's say.
As long as it's not near the laptop, it's safe.
Yeah.
But what is safe? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
It
It could be more safe if you put a base on after you use this.
Yeah.
You don't like passwords.
Oh,
So this will take.
okay.
I can share you my connection.
yeah, after that, actually we can run Delorean, but again, also Delorean will not work.
Also, one dirty hack that came to mind is like copy the RDO info directory, then run RDO PKG info. It will fetch, and then it won't fetch. That's like.
Yeah, that's the problem with having.
Actually, let me do it.
That requires network.
Okay,
You need a base that doesn't have cast network.
running out of time anyway,
there is
so
no
maybe
way to test with spec before.
let's open for questions, so we have 2 more minutes for questions, and in the meantime, we can fix that and so on later.
It will retrieve, it will create a mock environment as it would be.
So it works like a wrapper around mock,
Yeah, it's wrapper around mock. It was contributed by that guy, by sitting like in the front. Yeah, the one that's waving. So yeah, it's very lightweight wrapper.
So basically what would happen now that we try to run Delorean on our local changes, and if that passes, then submit for the review. We will have a Bugzilla template. Is it done already? So we'll have new template for package review. So we still want to do package review in the Bugzilla, in RDO product in Bugzilla. We are basically forking, let's say, Fedora packaging guidelines to allow more exceptions, and but still following most of them because they are most of the time reasonable, right? So we are also using the same tool, so this tool is using Bugzilla, so that's why we have it. But eventually we want to move initial package reviews to Gary as well. And yeah, after that, we need to review it and then officially merge the RDO info change and import spec file, Git repository to the OpenStack packages, and then next Delorean will just pick it up and start building it. And you will get spam if it fails.
Ah, nice.
Just remember the name.
Okay, questions maybe while we are waiting for the network. Well, the process, it's just few steps, but shouldn't be a big barrier to contribute new stuff. And we are ready to help on RC.
You mentioned this is the process where the Delorean builds from trunk, right?
Yeah, that's where we start. So we said our master is our like packaging upstream.
And is there any difference for or what happens when you want to cut a stable package?
Then we basically fork this RPM master. As I said, we also have RPM. We have Delorean's per stable release as well, and we fork that only if needed. But for the release, we fork now to this RDO-release. So this is our Git now that we moved. Previously, we were using for the latest release Fedora master branch, like rawhide. But we are retiring that from the Fedora, all the OpenStack services. So in Fedora, we'll have only OpenStack clients and postal libraries, which are dependencies of clients. And then we basically fork it, and then you add change logs and so on, like for the real compatibility.
But when you cut a branch, you need to replace those templating parameters to some actual version.
Yes, because that's actually templates. So you need to put, so in this Git you have actual versions, and you need to bump release for every build. As usual build, so it must be unique in same version release for each build.
And it's then the responsibility of the maintainer to make sure that whenever the Smaug people release something upstream, they also release the corresponding RDO package to.
Yeah, that's the idea. So that's why we need to have this maintainer info up to date. It's been out of date in some packages, so I'm trying now to find maintainers and chase them so that you have actual active people in that RDO info.
Or maybe multi-patches.
So it's the same procedure maybe like in Fedora. So when you have unresponsive maintainer, then you try to contact them a few times. If it does not respond, then somebody else takes over.
No, it's not possible.
You can pass the requirements. There is a local clone.
Where?
I think we are getting into woods.
No, continue speaking. We'll just like background.
Yeah, questions.
Yeah, it's just.
So how Delorean built a version is it this just the version number of build or something?
Yeah,
You're an advanced area
You
application.
can
It's,
look at the-
I think it's whatever PBR.
It is, yeah.
Oh.
It is basically what you run when you run setup py dash version. That's what Delorean does, and then it parses. So it's not RPM
It's
parser
a version
compatible.
tag, and release tag is...
Release tag is it takes, I think, the hash of the spec file repository and the upstream source repository. So you have two Git hashes basically in the somewhere in the NVR. So what I was just discussing with Fred is to actually introduce this Git hash also in the upstream turbo, because currently upstream turbo, when you do setup py as dist, it will generate just this PBR version. And for example, in this development version, that's, I don't know, for Nova 13.00 dev something. Actually now is
It should be small.
now it's RC2. No, it's not RC yet. It's B2. It's actually B3, and then dash dot dev, and then number of commits after that tag, milestone 2 tag. And what can happen, for example, if you are building from the, if you have local fork, it can generate non-unique ID, which is same like upstream, but it's not the same commit. So we need to put also the hash inside that generated version.
And do you plan to build packages
No,
on
this is done.
reviews, not just on versions code, but on code committed to reviews?
Because it has to check.
Sorry, I didn't get
And
the
do you
question.
plan to build run automatic builds for packages on reviews, not on merge?
Ah, yeah. So Delorean is building, as Haikel explained, every 5 minutes. That's just because of resources. Ideally, it would be on each commit, but we don't have that many resources. So it's every 5 minutes it runs, gets all the package repositories from RDO info, and then builds all those which have new changes since the last build. And ideally, what I mentioned, we want to move all this upstream. So we have actually this packaging templates upstream and build that on every review, and then submit votes on open reviews before merge.
No, pass it just to Liberty or.
But that's still lots of work. So first we need to move all this. We try to do that. So currently what we have now upstream is RPM and Debian packaging projects. In RPM packaging, we are collaborating with SUSE folks and Mirantis folks to have even more templatized spec files. It's whatever. What's the template language?
Ginger.
Ginger, yeah.
Yeah, the tool was written by Jakub. It's called render spec.
Yeah.
No, I just modified it. I didn't write it. Someone else did. Or?
You did most of the work. In the end.
Okay.
Yeah, so the idea is to have something like template, because there are lots of differences between SUSE and our spec files. So they're handling license differently. So you need to have kind of translate this upstream spec to the actual spec that you can use to build it. But it's slow moving and it will take a lot of time. So our proposal will be to move Delorean as is upstream in the separate project and then use that for upstream data. Okay.
Yeah.
We are out of time. Questions and more, or we can talk later. No problem. We are here.
Yeah, if you have any question or even want to sit down and have a walkthrough for a specific package, or you can just ask us. We're here. We'll be at Frosten 2, so you'll find us around the community booth. So just ask, or if you don't find us, ask Rich, and he will kick our ass to come here.
Yeah, I forgot when I signed up.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.